In 1982, director David Lynch was having lunch at a studio commissary in Mexico City, deep into preparations for his ambitious film June, when a gaunt, pale stranger approached. The man had intense blue eyes and a polite confidence. He introduced himself as an actor who loved Frank Herbert's novel and inquired if any role might still be available. Lynch was startled, as though he'd seen a ghost. He quickly gathered himself and apologized. Only later did Lynch confess to his new hire why he looked so shaken during that uncanny lunch moment. "I thought you were dead." The stranger was Dean Stockwell, and by his own account, he wasn't offended. In fact, he knew many people in Hollywood assumed he had vanished for good. Stockwell had by middle age effectively fallen off the map, disappearing from show business for years at a time, and many assumed that he hadn't just disappeared from Hollywood, but from life itself. But how did this intense and brilliant actor manage to make the quantum leap from being both alive and dead to being back on the silver screen again? Welcome to Hollywood Mysteries. Music. Dean Stockwell was born Robert Dean Stockwell on March 5, 1936 in North Hollywood, Los Angeles. With that address, he was practically destined for show business. His father, Harry Stockwell, was a baritone singer and stage actor best known as the voice of Prince Charming in Disney's Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. His mother, Nina, born Elizabeth Veronica, was an actress and comedian in vaudeville. Entertainment was the family business. Dean was the second of two sons. His older brother, Guy Stockwell, would also become an actor. When Dean was only 7 years old, both brothers were cast in a Broadway play called Innocent Voyage, and a Hollywood talent scout spotted little Dean's performance. MGM offered the child a contract, and soon the boy was enrolled in the studio's Little Red Schoolhouse alongside other budding stars like Elizabeth Taylor. He made his film debut at age 9, and by 10 he was supporting his entire family with his earnings. In those days, the studio system groomed child actors intensively. Stockwell quickly became one of MGM's most prized young players of the 1940s, appearing in some 24 films before he was out of his teens. He wasn't just doing bit parts or cute cameos. He played substantial roles that often carried the emotional weight of a film. In Anchors Away from 1945, a big-budget musical starring Gene Kelly and Frank Sinatra, 8-year-old Dean played a runaway orphan who sings with Sinatra and does a solid job tugging at audience heartstrings. In Ollie Cassison's acclaimed 1947 drama about anti-Semitism, Gentleman's Agreement, Dean had a key supporting role as Gregory Peck's inquisitive son. This was a performance that earned him a special Juvenile Golden Globe Award. In 1950, he with Errol Flynn and Kim holding his own as a streetwise young hero of Rudyard Kipling's adventure tale. In Joseph Lowe's anti-war fable, The Boy with Green Hair, 12-year-old Dean carried the film in the title role, playing a war orphan whose hair inexplicably turns bright green as a statement against intolerance. These were not simple cutesy kid roles. They demanded genuine acting, technique, and a depth of feeling rare in one so young. He had a soulful, searching quality on screen with wide eyes that could brim with tears on cue. Studio executives noting how effectively Stockwell could cry weren't shy about exploiting that talent. In fact, Dean remembered being told by Elliot Kazan to think of a puppy dying just before a take, which was a somewhat traumatizing but effective approach. His youthful face soon became synonymous with Hollywood PA's offscreen. However, the boy found the experience far from magical. Extreme psychological and emotional pressure is how Dean later described his childhood career. He was essentially treated as a pint-sized adult on set, expected to deliver professional results without regard to his age. Decades later, he recalled the ordeal vividly. "A lot of demands were placed on me that should not be placed on a child at all, ever. I resented the whole thing," he said, noting how he dreaded the swarms of fans and reporters that would mob him after a day's work. Dean later admitted he actively sabotaged his own adolescent image in hopes of escaping Hollywood's clutches. "I couldn't wait to get pimples. I couldn't wait to get awkward," he said of his teen years, explaining how he longed for a normal life. "I ruined my posture. I did everything just to get out of it." When his 7-year MGM contract finally ended in 1953, 16-year-old Dean did something astonishing. He walked away. At the height of his juvenile stardom, he simply quit acting. He hadn't had anything resembling a real childhood or adolescence. Now he intended to reclaim it. Stockwell later referred to this as his first great disappearance, and he didn't do it halfway. He vanished so completely that even his appearance changed. The teenager cut off his trademark tousled curls, enrolled in a regular high school, and even briefly attended the University of California, Berkeley. Unsurprisingly, academia did not stick. He dropped out of Berkeley after a short stint. Instead, the restless youth spent roughly 5 years roaming the country, taking odd jobs, and enjoying the freedom he had never known. In later interviews, Stockwell described those mid-1950s wanderings as an attempt to live life on his own terms, hitchhiking, doing manual labor, or disappearing into the countryside to live and work under a pseudonym. For a time, the former movie star pumped gas at a filling station without anyone realizing who he was. Hollywood had been a prison sentence for his youth, he said, and now he was finally paroled. Before I get into the harsh reality of Dean's new life, I'd like to take a moment to remind you all that I've launched an exciting new series over on Patreon and in the YouTube members area, audio versions of Hollywood histories. Every week, I'll be uploading an audio-only episode of around 10 minutes for you to enjoy once you are subscribed to the Hollywoods tier, and our members here on YouTube will get exactly the same content by clicking the join button below this video. I'll be covering a wide variety of Hollywood-related stories from silent movie scandals to the lives of LeCirque, known actors to disastrous productions, and much more. Higher tiers get early access to videos and other perks, even including being able to request a full Hollywood Mysteries episode on your favorite star. So, if you'd like to help Hollywood Mysteries thrive, please take a look at what's on offer over on Patreon and in the members area. I'll put a link on screen now so you can check out the perks and decide for yourself. And I'd like to say welcome to all the new supporters, both here on YouTube and on Patreon, and of course, a huge thanks to those who have been pitching in for a while now. And now, let's get back to the rise and fall and rise again of Dean Stockwell. This act of teenage rebellion came with a hard reality. By his early 20s, Stockwell discovered that life outside of Hollywood could be just as tough. He had no other trade to fall back on. After a few years of drifting, the pragmatic conclusion set in. There was nothing else I could do except act, he said. Acting, the very thing he had resented, was also the craft he knew best. So by 1957, still only 21, but already a film veteran, Dean cautiously returned to his profession. On his own terms, this time he moved to New York to do theater, a world away from MGM's tight control. To his surprise, he quickly found himself in demand again. Stockwell landed a leading role on Broadway in Compulsion, a psychological crime drama based on the infamous Leopold and Lou murder case. When Compulsion was adapted into a feature film in 1959, Stockwell reprised his role on screen acting alongside Orson Welles. The film was well received, and at the Cannes Film Festival, Dean shared the Best Actor prize with his co-star Welles and Bradford. Dillman, a prestigious honor that signaled his adult career was off to a promising restart. By the early 1960s, Dean Stockwell had seemingly beaten the child star curse. No longer the cherubic MGM boy, he had matured into a handsome young man with dark, brooding features, often compared to contemporary sensitive actors like Montgomery Clift or James Dean. Stockwell's performances in this era showed a depth and complexity that transcended the usual leading man. In Jack Cardiff's lush 1960 adaptation of D.H. Lawrence's Sons and Lovers, he played an aspiring artist grappling with love and family. The film earned 7 Oscar nominations and further proved Stockwell's dramatic chops. In Sidney Lumet's acclaimed film of Eugene O'Neill's Long Day's Journey into Night, Dean delivered a haunting turn as Edmund Tyrone, the consumptive soul-searching son in a tortured family. Acting alongside Katharine Hepburn, Ralph Richardson, and Jason Robb, again Kay honored him with the Best Actor award shared with his ensemble for that performance. By age 26, Dean had 2 Cannes trophies to his name and the kind of critical respect that few former child actors ever attain. On the surface, it looked as though Dean was poised for a long, stable career as a leading man. In reality, he was growing deeply disillusioned once again. The youthful angst that had driven him out of Hollywood at 16 was still there, now sharpened by adult consciousness. He struggled with his own psyche and sense of identity. Fame and success hadn't brought contentment. If anything, the acclaim made him uneasy. Friends noted that Dean carried a certain ambivalence about acting, a love-hate relationship with his craft that would persist throughout his life. After the intensive work of Long Day's Journey, his behavior turned erratic. He married actress Millie Perkins, best known for The Diary of Anne Frank, in 1960, but the young